Lars Frederiksen, the lead singer of megastar punk band Rancid, was on the Sessions podcast with Renee Paquette this week. Of course, Lars Frederiksen, huge wrestling fan, friends with CM Punk, singer of the song Ruby Soho, that Ruby Soho is named after and uses as her entrance theme. Lars, a mega wrestling fan, so it was. I always am a fan of when these worlds collide, right? When you see these mega stars, professional athletes, rappers, singers, whatever, are huge fans of professional wrestling, and they don't hide it. I love that shit, and I like when these worlds cross over. So it was really fun to sit and listen to this interview with Renee. You know, we got to hear a lot about the music side of Lars and being the front man for Rancid, being such a fucking, you know, huge punk star in the world of punk rock music. He's an absolute legend. But it was in this particular clip where he starts talking about his wrestling fandom. That was obviously something that we would be interested in over here. Talks about his fandom for wrestling, meeting CM Punk, and he has his thoughts on AEW as well. Check out this clip.
Is that when you met Punk?
So I was on a Warp tour with the Bastard. So this is 2004, 2005. And one of the sound guys was friends with him and said that we were played in Philly. And I was walking up the stage or the back of the stage to go play the show, and he was at the show, and he's walking down. He said, "You're Lars Frederiksen." I said, "You're CM Punk," and we just kind of hit it off from there. There was an understanding there. You know, I'm obviously a little older than he is, and you know, it's a little bit of a different generation, but it's the psychology and the mindset I think that we share, and through that's the friendship. You know, so. Over the years, it's just gotten stronger, and you know, it's cultivated into more of a family member. And then the tape trading thing happened, and that's where I met Tony the first time.
Really?
Yeah. So he was on a Death Valley Driver, which was like a blog. You know, they would have lists, and you would order, and you would ask for certain matches. Maybe you didn't see, like.
So you met Tony on this like chat board situation. What do you think about what he's been able to do now? I mean, creating AEW, creating this amazing alternative for people, and then, you know, going up against the things that are happening in WWE right now, which is now under the reign of Triple H.
What he's doing for the wrestling business is insane. He's bringing it to a whole different level that we're not going to we're seeing, you know, to some degree right now, but in 10 years from now, we're going to be really understanding what he's really doing. And I understand that people have their complaints about, like, you know, and whatever, and it all is what it is. But at the end of the day, he's giving somebody another option. It's like Uber and Lyft. It's like, you can pick which one you like and you can enjoy it. And I'm not going to go on Twitter and say, fuck Lyft. Fucking,
yeah.
Their pink sign. They're fucking stupid.
So in this podcast, Lars casually mentions that at one time he poked a guy's eye out with his thumb. Just like dug his thumb in the guy's eye socket during a street fight and popped his fucking eyeball out as a kid. I think he said he did it as a kid. Lars is a crazy ass punk rocker. He's a crazy motherfucker. But he's a diehard, unabashed wrestling fan, and we love that over here, don't we? We love our wrestling fans because we're wrestling fans. He's a mark. He's a giant fucking mark. You know, talking all about how he discovered wrestling and wrestling coming up and everything, who he was a fan of, all of that stuff. It was interesting to hear how he met CM Punk. He's been buddies with Punk since the Ring of Honor days. And now, like, his kids call him Uncle Punk. Like, Punk's legit, like, a close personal friend of Lars at this point. Like, member of the family. And all of this was just because Lars was a wrestling fan already. And obviously Punk would have been a Rancid fan. So the two there was the Mutual Appreciation Society. And they came together and sucked each other's dicks and jerked each other off. And they were best friends after that. Ruby Soho getting the theme song from Lars. He talked in full depth about how it was his recommendation, and that he put it out there, and then that him and Ruby and Tony Khan and the rest of the band of Rancid kind of figured out a way that they could go about making this happen and getting the song out there as Ruby's entrance music. And it was interesting to hear his take on AEW, how he thinks that a lot of the things that AEW is doing right now are things that we won't even recognize or appreciate until 10 years from now. And that was an interesting take. And I think he's right there. I think AEW is doing things right now that, a lot of us are kind of, as we live through it, maybe we don't appreciate it as much, but I think history will reflect pretty fondly on AEW overall. I guess that depends on how well they're able to recover from this CM Punk bullshit. I wonder what Lars, it's one thing that they did stay away from, unless the interview happened before then, maybe, I don't know. But how Lars would react, or what he would have to say about the Punk outbursts at the media scrum. That'll be interesting to hear if he ever speaks on that someday. But I just thought this was cool because, like I said, anytime that we get the crossover, you get the megastars from the mainstream. I wouldn't even say Rancid is a mainstream, but they are. They're not like on TV and shit, but Rancid is as big, as famous of a punk rock band, a true punk rock band as you can find. So it's definitely fun hearing this man not just talk about wrestling, but gush about wrestling. He was a fucking nerd about wrestling, and I love that. You could absolutely hear his fandom coming through, and to the point where he's breaking down psychology and shit. He's talking about the fucking psychology of the matches, and even corrected Renee on something, at one point. Was just like, no, but even more. It's like, it's about this. And he gets it. He fully understands the wrestling business. He even made a little comment about how the fans are fickle and how they recently just booed Ruby Soho, and how he, thought that she was going to be the big baby face and everything. It was just a great interview. So go out of your way to check out that interview, especially if you're a punk rock fan, especially if you're a Rancid fan. This one's a can't miss interview. Hey, thanks for checking out that clip. Don't forget to check out other clips here on the channel. And while you're there, throw a like, throw a subscribe. And don't forget to check out full episodes each and every Sunday of the Pro Wrestling Podcast.